Hi and welcome to SFRE. If you are looking for a quick RV setup video, whether you're new to RVing or you're just looking for a good summary without all the fluff, this video is for you. Come along. Now I've identified 6 quick steps to help you get set up smoothly and efficiently and feel confident that you're not missing anything. Those 6 steps for setup are parking, leveling, slides, electric, water, sewer. Those 6 things, I'm going to take you through them one at a time. Now everyone's camping and RVing experience is unique, but I'm going to focus on the elements that are relatively universal, and then you can pick the parts that are most helpful for you. For example, maybe you have an Airstream, an RV that doesn't have slides. Skip that. Maybe you're dry camping and don't need to worry about water or sewer. Skip that. We're just trying to lump all 6 items in order together in a way that's concise and most helpful. Step 1, parking. Now that seems to be common sense, right? But not with an RV. Whether you're driving a motorhome, a fifth wheel, or a travel trailer, the most important part of parking is communication. Maybe you have a backup camera or a screen that helps you see the back of the coach. Maybe you're gonna get a partner on the phone to communicate with you to make sure you don't hit anything. With parking, you wanna think ahead a couple of steps, such as slides or sewer. The less distance from your house plumbing to the dump, the better. Same for your freshwater hose. Before parking, it's good to get out and walk around and just take a look at the setup that they've provided for you. If I were parking here in site number 1, I see that they've got their 50 and 30 amp electric. The freshwater faces the coach, and the sewer drain's right here. Their cap is missing. They've got a brick to hold the sewer drain down. I take note of that. I'm also gonna look at my parking spot and see how wide is it and how much distance do I have to work with in terms of run and throw with plumbing, sewer, and electric. In addition to considerations for sewer, water, and electric, one of the things we think about when we're parking our motorhome is the back of the coach. When we're backing up, we want to make sure we've got plenty of room to get our bikes off the rack and access to our ladder. We might need to get up there to check our seals, check the air conditioner, clean out sticks or debris out from the slide toppers or the slides before taking off and bringing the slides in. So that's really important. After you find yourself a good parking spot, the next item on the list is leveling. Nothing else can happen unless the rig is level. Now every RV is different. Some have automatic leveling systems, some have stabilizers, some people are using Camco blocks. So I won't get into those particulars, but what I will tell you is this is an important step to do slowly and properly and get it right the first time. Because if you don't get your RV level, everything you do from here on out, you might end up redoing. Next up is slides. If you did a good job parking, then you know you've got plenty of room, but it's still good to have somebody outside eyeballing the slides as they come out. Not just to make sure you're not gonna hit anything, but just to watch their operation. It's great to keep your slides clean. I know a lot of people talk about lubrication, but after talking to several service departments and RV technicians, the most important thing is to keep these clean. So when you wash your rig, keep your slides out so that anything that could be in your slide mechanism, no matter what yours looks like, can get cleaned out. The dust, the dirt, and the grime can turn into a grit and a muck to work against the motors as they're trying to draw power from your batteries to bring in your slides. The main thing is to make sure you have enough room when you park that any obstruction, such as bushes, fences, or your neighbor's awning, isn't in the way when you bring your slides out. On our slides, we like to put these pool noodles. Most of that's because I'm tall, so that when I stand up after accessing the bays, I don't knock my noggin on something hard. All right, so we've parked well, we've got our rig level, and our slides are out safely. Next is electric. Now, when it comes to things that you bring inside your RV from an RV park, or wherever you're staying, maybe you're mooch docking, staying with a friend, you wanna protect your RV. There's no guarantee that the park is wired properly, or your friend's house, or that the water pressure coming in is not going to be too much. Sometimes the water pressure can overpower the fixtures in your rig or put pressure where you don't want it. Water's our friend until it's not. Now in just a little bit, I'll talk about the water pressure regulator as a way of protecting your rig, but the equivalent to that in electric is the surge protector. Now, I have a 50 amp surge protector here because that's what we most often run. We're usually running 2 air conditioners, a washer dryer combo, a microwave, plenty of things that we know we're gonna be needing 50 amps. Many people have put out videos on YouTube that are excellent and highly technical. The purpose to this one is to keep it simple. When you get to where you plug in, there's gonna be a 50 amp plug, a 30 amp plug that looks like this. This is 110 volts. Some of these breakers up here too. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is, if you don't already have one, get yourself a surge protector. You're gonna plug in your surge protector first, and then turn on the corresponding power and look for the lights on your surge protector that tell you that the power coming from the park is good and won't damage your rig. At that point, when you see the green light or whatever color yours happen to be, that's when you plug your plug-in that runs to your RV. I remember when we launched out on this journey, Swift Family Robeson Expedition, I thought that the order of operations was different. I thought it was important to be plugged in as soon as possible before I operated anything else. I didn't understand the electrical systems, and you don't need to fully either, but just know this. Most of the electric in your coach runs off of battery. Your battery is typically recharged by being plugged in or running off of a generator. Even if you're plugged in, when you bring out your slides, that motor is DC. That means it's running off your battery. So you don't need to plug in first before operating the electrical systems on the coach. Your slides will draw some juice from your batteries, and then when you do plug in, it'll charge them right back up. That's how your RV was designed to function electrically. Okay, so we've parked, we've leveled, we've got our slides out, operating off of our battery. We put our surge protector on, and we've got power to our rig. Next, it's time to hook up our water. Now, I like to run a splitter so that I can run fresh water to my coach and have an extra hose on hand to wash off hands and feet or for odd jobs outside the RV without having to unhook. Many RVs like ours have a shower, but they don't have the same water pressure that you get off the splitter at the source from the park. Most of the time, it's a lot more convenient just to use the water right here. And I picked the splitter that's got the that's got the water pressure regulator, our Fresh does. This does not, so the valve is shut on this, and when we want to wash something off outside real quick, this is the valve we turn. I actually prefer the water pressure regulator that has the gauge built into it, but from last season that one rusted, so we just bought this one in the RV office for now until we replace that. But that's a nice regulator to have, because with the gauge you can actually see how many pounds of pressure the water is flowing into your rig. That's pretty cool. Another nice thing about this setup is that when it's time to do the black tank flush, we've got this hose ready to go. So we've got 2 black tanks. One of the flushes is here, and there's one port just like that in the back tank back there. So you pop this open, and it's grooved out for a hose like this. I've seen people use their freshwater hose to flush the black tank. Not recommended. That's another reason we really like the second hose here. There's a couple of times that we have grown accustomed to doing a black tank flush. One of those is in between sites. That's a great practical tip because that helps you get your weight down. Another time that we like to flush the tank is if we're camping in an area where it gets super hot. We've noticed in a couple places in the country, even the fresh water can get smelly in the heat. And it has to do with the metal content, and it has nothing to do with wastewater. Nothing you can do about that other than a Berkey or one of the filters that makes your water smell normal. But you can control the odor in your black and your gray tank. Even your gray tank can get a little bit stinky because of the food residue that can rot in there. I just finished filling the black tank by screwing the hose into the nozzle, and then our black tank back here is 40 gallons. So now the tank is completely full, and I've shut off the water. The way that I'm sure that it's full is I had one of my kids inside on the phone looking down the chute to tell me when the tank was full. The last thing I wanted to do was overflow the toilet onto the floor. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull the black tank, and you'll see that it is just gray water. Gray tank is running mostly clear right now because we filled it all the way full, and I dropped one of those chemical pellets in to help dissolve anything settling on the side. Now when I go back in, I'm gonna flush the toilet for about 20 seconds so that the first time somebody uses it, the waste doesn't hit dry tank. That's another nice tip to prevent the residue building up. If you do notice that the rig is starting to be stinky, even after you flush out your black tank, another tip is to close your gray tank and put a little bit of water in the tank. The reason for that is you cut off the sewer line, because if the waste in the ground is superheating and fumes are coming up and you've got an open sewer line here with an open gray, when you're camping, that smell can fill your whole camper. This 90 degree is another important tool that we use. We're using the 0G hose to prevent kinking, and I like to store the extra hose here as opposed to on the ground. But I love this 90 degree elbow with the additional valve here, because what that does is it takes the pressure off of the house system and it makes it a lot easier to adjust these fittings. So when it's time to unhook, I turn the water off here, that takes the pressure off of this valve. Or I can turn the water off at the splitter at the main, and that takes the pressure off of this valve. This is awesome. This motor coach comes with a whole house filter right here. On our fifth wheel, we used the supplement at the freshwater intake. For our drinking water inside, we like to use the Berkey filter in addition to the whole house filter. I get excited about RV setup. You know why? Because it means I'm getting ready to adventure. It's like, what's next? What do I get to see? But first we got to get the work done. And that's a great idea. That's a great mentality for setup. Is just think about all the things that this messy work is going to allow you to do and see together. As we move through this, I'm going to move from the sun to the shade, and we might even get some nighttime footage here just to kind of keep it interesting. Before we get too far into the detailed setup, I just wanted to go through all of the things you should expect to get in the kit and all the items you're going to want to purchase for your setup before you hit the road. Many of the items I'm going to show you today within the context of the setup, such as our water supply hoses and electric. But regarding the sewer, I wanted to break it down for you a little bit more detailed. The items that you're going to need are going to depend on your setup, on your coach, what your needs are for camping and for traveling. A typical sewer kit, like the ones we have bought, come with 2 of these Rhino-Flex hoses. Before we store these away, we clean them up and then we cap them. Each sewer kit is going to have 2 of these hoses with the associated caps. You've got each kind of cap on each end. These are fitted. Now you can run these together. So you'll need 2 kits if you run into sites where you have to go further than 10 feet, which is the run on most of these hoses. Stringing 2 together, it locks into place. Pretty tight there. So now, when we stretch that out, we've got 20 feet of run. My goal on my coach, since I've got 2 bathrooms, is to split the dump site so that I only need 1 10-foot run per bathroom. Maybe your RV just has 1 bathroom. You'll have to make the adjustments based on your needs. Your typical sewer kit comes with 2 hoses, a 90-degree elbow. Now this is what goes into the ground. It also comes with a clear elbow, which is what comes out of your rig. Now I'll show you this in a little bit, but this comes out of your RV. Then your first 10-foot run screws onto there. And then this guy is going to go into the elbow, which then goes into the ground. Now you'll notice with this 90-degree elbow, it's clear, just like the one coming out of the rig, which is helpful because that way you can see what waste is coming through here. Is it fresh water, gray water, black water? What is it that's coming out? That's helpful as you're dumping your rig and preparing and cleaning your tanks. Essential for us is a Y splitter. So this allows us to screw into our 90-degree elbow and then run 1 10-foot run, or 20 if needed, to each of the bathrooms. And you'll see that in just a little bit. The next accessory I would call essential is your sewer stand. So you're going to need one of these for each 10-foot run. What this does is it keeps your sewer hose off the ground, and it helps to angle it from higher ground to lower ground so that you don't end up with standing water in your sewer drain. That's a good thing. Other essentials related to the sewer, you're going to want nitrile gloves. You're going to want dish soap and a brush. When it's time to clean the sewer drain, you're going to want these on hand. Hand sanitizer. We keep these cleaning supplies in both of our dump bays. Now you'll notice that our 90-degree elbow that goes into the ground has 3 sets of grooves on it. That's because RV parks have different sized fittings sometimes. So this is supposed to guarantee that no matter what size fitting you encounter with your dump drain, you're going to be able to screw it in and get a tight fit so that you don't get black or gray leakage at the dump. Whether that dump is at your campsite or the place you're staying has a central dump at the entrance or exit. Now, some of these dump ports, as you're going to see in a minute, don't have these grooves. They have a weighted cap. So pay close attention. Take a look here. So this RV park does not have grooves in the sewer drain. It just has this heavy cap. So when it's time to put the sewer drain in, you've got to use that cap to weight it down. Now we've got it flat to the ground. You can expect these hoses to last about 1 season. That's what we did. We replaced them after about a year. The main reason, not because the hose itself is going to leak, it's because of the fittings. The more often you're having to put these fittings together, this is where your leakage is going to occur between the hoses. And so a new set is just a tighter fitting. You do summer and winter, the contraction, the expansion of the plastic, and before long, these aren't as tight as they were when they came out of the box. You can get these kits on Amazon and most RV stores like Camping World, and I'd say 80% of the RV parks we've stayed at have a store where you check in, and this is a hot commodity. Now that I've parked properly, got the slides out, made sure I have plenty of room to work with over here for setup. Got the electric plugged in, my 50 amp service, and I've got the fresh water running to the coach. Now it's time for the last step, and that's the sewer setup. As you can see, I've already got my sewer line run for the front bath. Now I realize depending on what kind of RV you have, you may have 1 bath or 2. So I took the liberty of going ahead and having that one set up already. And I've got my Y splitter here at the dump, which is essential when you have 2 bathrooms. It's key when you're parking to try to split the uprights with your bathrooms so that you've got a 10-foot or less run from your dump to the Y splitter. That way you don't have to run extensions. It's not the end of the world if you have to fit 2 10-foot hoses together. It's just a lot more convenient and easier to work with when you only have to do 1 10-foot run for each bathroom. Okay, let's go ahead and get set up. I'm gonna run from this rear bathroom to the other end of this Y splitter where that cap is. We want to run downhill, means we want to put the tall side over here. I'm just going to take our best guess and spread this out. I've got my plumbing hose with my clear elbow. I'm going to take these caps off because we store them clean, so we know we're ready to go. Take this cap off here. Turn it till it snaps. That's a nice tight fitting there on both. Now we run our sewer on top of the sewer stand. And once we've got our sewer hose nicely balanced on the sewer stand, I take off the cap that goes under this here. Make sure that your black and gray are closed before you take that step. And now we'll straighten out our hose. And that looks pretty good. So that allows us to move our plumbing hose from higher ground to lower ground. And you'll see that I stop it right here so that the last run to the dump is a downhill slope. The mistake I've made a couple of times is not giving this area right here enough support or having too much hose so that when you pull the tank, it creates weight here and you end up with a loop right here and it's not draining well. Once we're set up, where we know we're going to be staying for a while, I leave the gray open, but the black closed. We don't dump the black until it's full. That way both liquids and solids dissolve together, not caking on the side of your waste tank in the rig.
You'll notice as you order the gloves from wherever you want to order them from, I'm sure there's favorite brands out there, that they come in cardboard boxes that easily crumble, get wet, it's gross. This is just a baby wipe container, obviously an old one, that is waterproof, and that's where we keep our gloves, so we don't have to manage disgusting watery boxes.
I want you to notice the clear elbow here, and there are different brands of elbows and they come at slightly different angles. The Rhino brand that matches the hose, you would think that is the one you would use, but it's slightly different proportions, and it creates a strain on that hose, and the fittings don't line up perfectly. But with this clear one, it's actually a different brand, it makes a tighter fit for us. Nobody wants black or gray leaking. That's just one of those things you learn with experience. Remember, when dumping, you pull your black lever first, and you'll see there's no leakage whatsoever. And when I use that little orange one, it does leak. And after you dump the black, you pull the gray to wash out the sewer line. Once they're all sterilized, we store all of our sewer accessories in this rear dump bay. There's really no room for any more accessories in the wet bay in the front where the shower is after the hose. It's just not a very large bay. So we clean them up real good and store them back here. Now, in our first season, we traveled in a different model. It was a truck and a fifth wheel. And we used to keep our sewer accessories in one of those plastic tubs with the lid on it to keep everything separate in the back of the truck. But that container doesn't fit in this bay. So we're just real careful and store everything in the gray and black bay back here in the back. When it's time to unhook and head to the next campsite, the best way to clean out your sewer system is while you're still hooked up to the dump. I've unhooked this from the rig and I'm still hooked up to the dump. I'm going to turn on my hose, not the one that supplies fresh water to the rig, the other one at the splitter that we use for cleaning. And I am going to rinse this right into the drain. And I can see it at the Y splitter here because it's clear plastic, and that looks pretty clear now. So I'm going to turn off this water, set the hose aside, and I've got my caps here ready to go. So I'm going to cap this end. I'm going to keep the water flow going down to the drain. As I unhook here, I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to cap this drain so nothing can flow back out. And I'm going to cap this drain. And then I'll rinse off the outside of this sewer hose before storing it. All right, that wraps it up. Thanks for joining SFRE. I hope this was helpful. If you haven't had a chance yet, click the like and subscribe button and the little notification. That way YouTube will let you know when we put out another video. We plan to sprinkle some of these how-to videos from time to time along with our journey. We hit the road about 18 months ago. If you haven't seen any of those videos, we've got 5 kids and we're on the road full time. It's a wild ride. Come along. Hope to see you next week. Bye.
I need a picture of my drawing.